All right, now we're finally live. Third time's the charm. I don't know why my camera keeps having these issues where I have to keep resetting my podcasts all the time. But here we are. We're finally here. So welcome, everyone, to the ARCA Racing Podcast on a Tuesday this week. Since we're just doing a review show and we don't have to wait for an entry list, we are now doing a review show this week. So that means Backmarker Battles will be on Thursday. So welcome, everyone, to the show. I'm your host, Colby Evans, a.k.a. Starting Park Car from Twitter. And a little bit of a smaller show than usual today. No preview show, as I mentioned earlier. This is just a review episode, one of the very few review-only episodes of the ARCA Racing Podcast. Now that you can tell there's no East races left. There's no main series races left. It's pretty much just the West series. So, not going to be a normal big show for you guys tonight, but I welcome everyone who's going to join me in. We got a very, very fun race to cover. Owners Championship battles continuing to heat up, but unfortunately, it looks like that after this weekend's race at Madera, the Drivers' Championship has all but been locked up for Sean Hingorani. We'll talk all about it after my short little intro, and we'll get right into the ARCA Racing West Series at Madera. So, you guys know the drill. Follow me on social media, Starting Park Car on Twitter for all ARCA tweets, lower budget team tweets, NASCAR tweets, and the occasional stupid stuff you guys know that I love to tweet about. Like and subscribe to this channel. Turn on that bell for all notifications. We're getting close to 1,500 subs, our next giveaway. So if you'd like to be a part of that giveaway, all you have to do is subscribe to the channel. And I'll go through my list and I'll select one lucky winner. And, of course, check out the Racing Experts Media for all NASCAR media-related content. They are the official media partner of this podcast. So, Madera Speedway, one of the more unique tracks up on the West Series. The NASCAR series has not visited Madera in quite a long time. It's been since 2009, since the last time we were there. Back in that day, it was not even called the K&N series yet. The real OGs, who follow the East and West series, remember when it was called the Camping World series, back when Camping World, for that one brief season, was actually sponsoring both the Truck Series and the East and West divisions before K&N took over the sponsorship rights in 2010. Because before the Camping World Truck Series, obviously it was Craftsman Series, but the series was known as the Camping World Series. So people might not know that. Yes, Camping World used to sponsor the series before they went to trucks. So it's been a while. Like I said, 14 years, lots have changed. We're not running the steel body cars anymore. We got these composite fiberglass bodies. The only driver who was scheduled to be entered in this race that was in the one from 2009 was PJ Pedroncelli. We did have a pretty solid entry list looking at it. Unfortunately, we did have some withdrawals. RJ Smotherman in the 38 did withdraw, mainly due to the damage the car suffered at Vegas. His car got pretty beat up at Las Vegas with nose damage and rear end damage. And rather than try to rush it and get to Madera, they just went ahead and are going to sit this one out, and they will return at Phoenix. And the side one is PJ Pedroncelli. We know PJ Pedroncelli. He was a championship contender in 2021. They tried again to go full-time in 2022. It's just the funding really didn't work out. They weren't running as good. They did crash a lot of their equipment, and it just kind of put them out of business. Then like the real world inflation issues, the costs kind of just got too much for them to show up. As have been the case for a lot of West Series organizations. They just simply cannot afford to show up. It's not that they don't want to show up, they just can't afford to. So those two cars withdrew. We also did have a number change. Nick Jonides, who was running the 41, his own car under 41, he withdrew the number and re-entered the car under 71. So still 19 cars, which at a third-mile track at Madera, 19 cars is more than enough. Guys, we don't need 30 cars. That'd be better, but 19 cars at a third-mile track, plenty of cars to put on a good race. Our pick going into this race, my pick was actually PJ Pedroncelli, ironically enough. He was my pick to win the race. So pretty much after that, my pick went to Caden Honeycutt, and unshockingly, Caden Honeycutt did put the whooping on the field. But, of course, we'll get into that as we get into the race review. So, of the 19 cars that entered, like I said, the storyline coming into this race was Sean Hingorani's struggles at Las Vegas. Would they continue into Madera? And could Trevor Huddleston and Tyler Reif close in? close in on him for the championship battle as we head into Phoenix. Of course, with Sean Hingorani having his issues at Las Vegas, disobeying the officials, and getting a poor finish, arguably his worst performance of the year. Definitely looked to be a capitalization weekend for both Trevor Huddleston and Tyler Reif. Practice at this track, I mean, it's amazing how, in a third mile, and like we said on the Las Vegas stream a week ago, it is truly amazes me how even the West Series playing field is. Because we see the top two cars, the 18 and the 20 in the main division, have just a huge amount of advantage over the rest of the field. But you look at this practice session right here from Madera, 1st through 15th, okay? 1st through 15th is separated by just 0.3 of a second. 1st through 7th is separated by less than a tenth. Heck, 1st through 19th is separated by 0.8 of a second. That's how close this West Series field is. And that's pretty impressive, man. And that's one thing, again, why I continuously say that as much as I love the West, as much as I love the main division and the East division, the West division, in my personal opinion, is the best of the 3 ARCA divisions. In my personal opinion, I do think the West Series provides the best racing. They just don't have the national scale that the main division does. Caden Honeycutt, unshockingly, like I said, after their struggling weekend at Las Vegas, they came back with a vengeance. He won practice. Eric Nascimento, man, tell you that there's a real team in the series that has stepped it up over the last couple of years, has been the Eric Nascimento organization. And, this is a team that doesn't really have a lot of funding. A lot of their cars are mostly unsponsored, but there they are every week. Eric in the 4 and Ethan in the 21, man, like they're clicking away at it, and I give them a lot of credit. They're not young. They're not old. I mean, they're both young, and they're doing what they can, and they've really built this organization up very, very well. So real shout out to Eric Nascimento, man. The Souza cars were looking good. Tyler Reif was 3rd. Todd Souza was 4th. Trevor Huddleston was 5th. Sean Hingorani was all the way outside the top 10. But we kind of known that to be the Hingorani and Venturini style. They don't necessarily practice hard because, once again, Sean Hingorani ran the most laps of anyone in practice. He ran 56 laps, the most of anyone, which is weird because you wouldn't think probably the best prepped car outside of the 17 and the 4 would run the most laps in practice, but I guess more practice laps are laps nonetheless. But yeah, he was outside of the top 11, so it did look like, just based off of practice, that Caden Honeycutt would be the car to beat, and that Trevor Huddleston and Tyler Reif might actually have a chance at catching him. As we moved into qualifying, again, 2-lap qualifying. All 19 cars did take a time. This was a little bit more spread out. The field was separated by a little over a second because obviously in qualifying you're pushing it harder. Caden Honeycutt would not win the pole. We would get, in my opinion, one of the biggest shocks of the year. Eric Nascimento wins the pole. I am not sure if this is his very first ARCA Menard Series West pole, but either way, he won the pole. A big upset. Was so excited for him. A lot of the guys in my Discord, we were all flipping out. It's like, oh man, can an independent West Series team actually take down the big guys like MMI and Venturini? And this was definitely possible tonight. Definitely possible. Caden Honeycutt narrowly was 2nd. Todd Souza was 3rd. Tyler Reif was 4th. And Sean Hingorani, like we predicted, he usually can step it up in qualifying. He ended up 5th. However, due to an unapproved adjustment, he would have to start 19th at the rear of the field, along with the 71 of Nick Jonides due to the driver change. So the race got going late. One of the only downfalls about the West Series, and really one of its very few downfalls, is that their races start very late in the Midwest and on the East Coast. I feel even worse for the East Coast people because my race started at 10 o'clock. Their race starts at 11 o'clock. So that's got to suck. So the people who watch the West races at 11 p.m., you guys are the real supporters, man. That takes guts, man. And I thank those people who watch that live at 11 p.m., man. So yeah, the 2023, and I love the name of this race. I want people who can pronounce this correctly. The 2023 5150 Junior Homecoming ARCA 150. That is an awesome name for a race. Try saying that 5 times fast. You will screw yourself up if you try. So the race gets going. Caden Honeycutt chooses the outside, gets a really early jump on Eric Nascimento. They go into turn 1. Caden running the outside gets a better arc into turn 1, easily clears Nascimento off of turn 2. He holds down the lead. Sean Hingorani is fighting his way through the field. The Souza cars are fighting each other for third. It's easily tell in the very beginning, this is really anyone's race. It's a track position heavy race, but a lot of the cars in this race are very, very similar. So I would really say is whoever got out front, you could honestly say would be the car to beat. It's one of those types of races where whoever really gets out front, I would say is the car to beat. So they really weren't pulling away from each other, so to say. Not necessarily like, it's a 3rd-mile track. You can't really spread out that much. Honeycutt was leading by about not a quarter of a second, like a 10th over Nascimento. The Souza cars had settled themselves into 3rd and 4th. The 16 of Tanner Reif, who's really stepped it up, I'll say, in the last couple of races. The 16 team finally actually looks like they're showing some competitiveness. He was running 5th. Hingorani, he had kind of stagnated in about 6th or 7th. We had our first caution 8 laps in. Monty Tipton, again, I love that name. What a great name for a race car driver. He mysteriously just pulled off into the infield after 8 laps. It appeared that he had a mechanical problem, but then all of a sudden just got it going again. So I really wasn't sure what the problem was there. He got it back going again. He went a couple laps down. It was kind of a rough weekend overall for Monty. I mean, I know he's in his only 2nd start, but I got to say, what a great name. I can't get over it enough. You guys know I mark out of it every time I talk about it on the show, but Monty Tipton is such an awesome name for a race car driver. Like, I cannot state that enough. But and he's driving for the new Robbie Keneally team. It's great to see that team expanding as much as they are. They're now up to 2 cars when this team really didn't even exist a couple races ago. So more entries in the West Series, the better, for sure. Unfortunately, it'd be a tough race for the Keneally team, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that as we get on with the review. So we had our first caution 8 laps in. Nobody had went a lap down at that point yet. So we were in for a next long green flag run. On this green flag run, it was kind of the same thing. Caden Honeycutt got a big jump. Eric Nascimento, he could hang with him. He could even hang on the inside with him for a first couple laps, but being pinched down on the bottom like that, not being able to get back into the throttle, you can kind of see like he's trying, man. He's trying so hard, and he can get there. But the 17 can just get the better bite off the corner. Does that make sense? Kind of like race car driver lingo. He can get a better bite off the corner and just clear to the point where Nascimento's not a dirty driver either. He's not a dirty driver. He wouldn't wreck any of the top guys, but he just can't get clear. So we get going green again. Honeycutt continues to lead. The Reif car, I keep saying the Reif cars because Tyler's in one of them, but the Souza cars, they're kind of stagnating. They don't have winning cars necessarily. They don't have winning cars, but you can tell that the Souza cars are definitely good cars. And for a while, Caden had been pulling away, even got to about a half a second lead, which on a 3rd-mile racetrack is actually quite a bit, half a second. But we noticed that the 4 Nascimento car had a longer run setup because, again, in the West Series, you cannot change tires unless it's an absolute emergency and it's cleared by an official. Every team has tires in the pits, but you're only allowed to change them if it's an emergency, like if you flat spot one and they approve it, or if you just flat out blow a tire and then they'll obviously approve it. So a lot of teams will set up their cars for long run races because that's what we see about the West Series. I feel like that's also a cost-cutting maneuver that the main division could maybe take part in as well for their short track races. Who my favorite ARCA underdog is in the chat? The guy I work for, Brad Smith. Guy I work for. So yeah, as the run kept going on, they were lapping up lap traffic pretty quickly. Once they caught lap traffic, they were lapping cars pretty fast, like the 77 of Brody Armtrout, who was in his debut. David Smith, he can run at a decent pace, but once David Smith gets lapped, he doesn't like to get in the way, so he kind of just stays out of the way of everyone. Same with Monty Tipton. And then, of course, they were catching like Takuma Koga. They were catching all these guys like the usual back markers. Ethan Nascimento as well. They were lapping him. And the 4 was starting to reel the 17 in. And just as he was starting to make the pass, like getting under him, we unfortunately had a caution on lap 78 or 77, 78. And the unfortunate part is it was Tanner Reif who had worked his way into, I believe he was in the top 5. Was he in the top 5? Yeah, he was fourth. Fourth place, Tanner Reif had a problem with the car. Really wasn't sure what was wrong with it. It just kind of stopped. There was no damage to it. It didn't look like an engine failure because there was no smoke coming out of it. It would later be determined as a gear issue, a rear gear issue. Tim Monroe is a cool dude. But it determined to be a gear issue on the 16 car. And he would get back out on track. I don't know if Charlie Crawl did bring it up in the broadcast, but the 16 of Tanner Reif did actually finish the race with 23 laps to go. He did get back out on track, did pass a couple of cars, gained some precious points back, but that was definitely a disappointing run for him because, like I said, he probably could have been a winning race contender, but again, we'll never know. So that was the second caution. Takuma Koga did get the free pass there, and this is kind of where the race turned into chaos. We had that long 63-lap run, and then the longest run of the race after that was a whopping 15 laps. That was the calm portion of the race, and now that we were past halfway, this is where the race started to get crazy. So at this point, Caden Honeycutt still is leading all the laps, but it's clear that the 4-car can be a contender. The 4-car can be a contender. It's just, it's hard to beat someone when they're running the perfect line. So we get back going green again. Caden again with a great restart. Again, starting off high and launching himself into turn 1. He can easily clear him. At this point, Sean Hingorani has made his way into the top 5 with all the restarts. Trevor Huddleston has been able to make his way into the top 5. Again, he knows he's got to go. The storyline that we were talking about, in last week's show was that Trevor Huddleston could not afford to finish below the 15 car. Same with the 13. They had to try their best to not finish behind the 15 car of Hingorani, because if they lost any more points in the championship battle, then more than likely their shot at the West Series championship, even though Phoenix is going to bring in a 30-plus car field, relatively gone, So, but Sean Hingorani, as we know, man, that Venturini car, it's just, in my opinion, it's just the best setup car because Venturini, they have the experience, they have the advantage, they have better tools and equipment than a lot of these teams, especially the West Series teams, have. And Sean Hingorani made his way up there through the field. Did get quite rough with the cars. On lap 92. On lap 92, just 7 laps later, we had probably one of the bigger moments of the race. They were coming off of turn 2. It was actually Huddleston and Hingorani side by side. Now, Hingorani looked like he backed up the corner too much. Tyler Reif was going to try to go 3 wide. I don't know why you would try to go 3 wide at a 3rd-mile track. So he biffs the side of Hingorani. Hingorani with an amazing save, but he has to lift on the throttle. So it jacks up the entire field behind him. And Tyler Reif puts Dustin Ash, who would return for a second week, right in the wall. And the unfortunate part for Dustin Ash, who's an innocent victim in all of this, with Madera Speedway having concrete walls, any hit to the wall is going to kill your suspension. And unfortunately, that's what happened to Dustin Ash. With the potential of a slow car, they had to throw the yellow. And, yeah, I felt bad for Dustin Ash right there, man. He was doing nothing wrong, just in the wrong place at the wrong time. I hope the damage is not too severe, that Jerry Pitts Racing won't bring back that car for Phoenix. I don't think it is. It's just like some suspension components. The right front suspension is broken, which, that they can fix that. The actual damage to the car is not severe. Maybe a new nose, maybe a new door. That's it. But I think the 5 car in general is repairable. It's not seriously, but in this series, you can't go to the garage and fix something like that and get back out in time. So Dustin Ash's day was over. We did have another car retire at that same time with Dustin Ash. Brody Armtrout lost the brakes. This was not a start and park. He legitimately lost the brakes in his 77 car. So we had 3 cars off the track. Of course, the 16 would come back out on the track to pass them both, if that makes sense. So we were losing a couple cars at this point, and sadly would continue to lose more. Also at this point, David Smith, he was the next caution 3 laps later. Actually, no, he was not the next caution. He was a caution after this. We had some big moments with Sean Hingorani and what we thought might be the championship deciding moment. I thought it might be the championship deciding moment. Honeycutt gets a good restart. Hingorani tries to spin the 88 of Joey East. Kyle Keller, who, again, I feel like is one of the more unsung heroes of the ARCA West series. Kyle Keller is doing a lot with a little. He was running top 5. He got into an accident with Sean Hingorani going into turns 1 and 2, which had a lot of damage to both cars. Sean Hingorani's car was pretty beat up. Not like killed. I mean, like no severe damage, but kind of beat up short track style. Same with the 70. And it was just like, wow, man, is Sean Hingorani throwing away this championship? And he couldn't get the car going. He had stalled it. Keller stayed on the lead lap. Hingorani, he did go a lap down. It looked like there was quite a bit of damage to the rear and the front. And I'm thinking to myself, man, is this where Hingorani, is he going to choke? Is he going to choke away this championship after everyone pretty much said it was tailor-made for him? Especially with how the season was going. So we get back going green again, and I'm like, man, what if we don't get another yellow? But then, of course, I should have remembered we were going to get another yellow. It's a short track race. Not 7 laps later, we do get the yellow. David Smith, he had a mechanical problem. He would stop on the front stretch. He had to go behind the wall for about 20 laps. He would return to the track and finish the race. But that caution did lend Sean Hingorani the free pass. And at this point, again, we were also, like I said, losing cars. We were losing cars at this point. And Hingorani was back on the lead lap. He was already back in 13th. So he wasn't necessarily, way behind and could still salvage a great finish. We ran 5 more laps. Again, Honeycutt with just a great restart. Nothing that Nascimento could really do. At this point, though, Nascimento had started to fall through the field. Huddleston, again, he knew he had to be aggressive. He got up to second place, and he pretty much knew, Huddleston knew he had to win the race. Either win or finish second. He just had to gain maximum points as possible with the 15 car and the 13 car trying to chase him down. So, and he's doing a good job. Unfortunately, it's just like the Souza cars. They are just a bit better than him. It was quite noticeable throughout the race. The Souza cars were better. Both Todd and Tyler were just too good. Bradley Erickson in the 23, that new entry, had actually finally started to see some real speed out of that car after they had struggled for the first 2 races of the year. They had struggled for the first 2 races of the year in that car. But it looks like the 23 is finally getting back on track. Unfortunately, so one of the last couple races of the year. So not really much they can do there. But continuing on, again, Caden Honeycutt, just like I said, he just can't be beat on these restarts no matter who's on the inside because, again, today with the control car, he gets the jump every single restart. So we have a debris yellow after 5 laps, and then we have the big caution of the race, which literally happened on a restart. Sean Hingorani was back in the lead lap. He's already back in the top 10 at this point. And then we get the big caution on lap 137 with 23 laps to go. The 4 of Eric Nascimento does not go. And unfortunately, the field stacks up behind him. Takuma Koga with heavy. He got the worst of it. 2 weeks in a row, he's rear-ended someone. Not his fault. The 49 of Monty Tipton was involved. The 1 of Robbie Keneally was involved. So both KKM cars. Ryan Philpott was involved. Ethan Nascimento was involved. Like I said, Nick Jonades was involved. This pretty much took out all the back markers, realistically, man. A lot of these cars were heavily, heavily damaged. And I felt bad because, like I said, these are the guys who really can't afford, like this damage, even for the part-time cars. But this was all exactly what Sean Hingorani wanted to see because this automatically brought him back up to the top 10. I think he was again back in 7th. But another DNF for Takuma Koga, which sucks because everyone knows I'm a Takuma Koga fan. And like I said, for the Keneally team, both cars with serious damage. They would both fail to finish. And Ethan Nascimento would fail to finish. And even it killed a great finish for Eric because it damaged his car and losing all those positions killed whatever good day he was going to have. So kind of a toss-up of who's going to win, man. Caden Honeycutt, Todd Souza, Trevor Huddleston, Tyler Reif, Bradley Erickson, Joey East. Like I said, it was still anybody's race. Caden Honeycutt, once again, guys, though, he got a great restart as they went back with 15 laps to go. Todd Souza spins the tires, so Caden easily gets to cut down. Huddleston makes his way up to 3rd, gets past Erickson. Tyler Reif manages to make his way to 4th, and eventually actually does get past Huddleston with about 8 laps to go. Huddleston, of course, knowing, the 15 of Hingorani is already making up spots anyway. He cannot afford to lose any more positions. If he can't win the race, you got to finish as high as you can. You got to finish as high as you can. Meanwhile, the 17 of Caden Honeycutt, he's just hard to beat, man. You have a great car and an A-plus short track driver. Honeycutt drove away from the field. He got the biggest lead of the entire race in just 15 laps. He won by over a second. But the real drama didn't take place with Sean Hingorani. Actually took place between Trevor Huddleston and the Souza cars. Huddleston, like we had mentioned, had fallen to 4th behind one of the Souza cars. He was behind Tyler Reif. Todd Souza was in 2nd. Tyler Reif was 3rd, and he was 4th. Coming to the white flag, Huddleston had moved Reif out of the way because, again, he's trying to gain positions. In the next corner, though, as we know in short track racing, turnabout is fair play, and the 13 of Reif spins out the 50 of Trevor Huddleston. So all that work, the entire race, all that work for Trevor Huddleston, the entire race, and it was all for nothing. And, of course, Sean Hingorani came home. I mean, he was just pretty much limping the car to the flag at this point. He would finish 6th. He would finish 6th, and Trevor Huddleston would be unofficially scored 11th. So all that work, like I said, by poor Trevor Huddleston to try to gain points on him, and he would have gained points. I think the gap would have been like 19 points. Had he finished 3rd and Hingorani finished 7th, I think the gap would have either been 20 or 19 points. So, which would have been easily manageable at a track like Phoenix with 30-plus cars. But unfortunately, this would bring it up to 30, which would pretty much net that Hingorani is not going to get beaten for the championship by Trevor Huddleston. Now, we also thought about Tyler Reif, though. He was only 1 point behind Trevor Huddleston. So by him finishing 3rd and Sean Hingorani finishing 6th, that might still propel Tyler Reif a chance at the West Series Championship. Well, unfortunately, I'm not sure if this was ever brought up in the broadcast, but Tyler Reif was actually penalized for the contact with the 50 car, and he was also sent back to the last car in the lead lap. So officially, the 50 car ended up 10th, the 13 car ended up 11th, and Sean Hingorani gets another top 5 finish. So, despite all that effort, the entire race, by the 50 and the 13 to gain points on the 15, when they had really a golden opportunity to do it with all the struggles that Hingorani was having, Hingorani still ends up gaining 5 points on both of them. It's like, God dang it, man. That's got to suck. So, yeah, unfortunate for Tyler Reif and for Trevor Huddleston. They lose pretty much guaranteed top 5 finishes. Caden Honeycutt cruises to his 2nd ARCA Menard Series West Series win. Leads all the laps. All 150 laps were led by him. His 2 wins, he's led every lap. So definitely dominant. Todd Souza gets another 2nd place finish. You got to love it. Joey East, by virtue of the penalties, was bumped up to 3rd. Bradley Erickson was 4th. Sean Hingorani, like I said, was classified as 5th. Eric Nascimento 6th. It's got to be disappointing. Kyle Keller was 7th. Nick Jonades with a solid 8th place. Ryan Philpott was 9th. And like I said, Trevor Huddleston and Tyler Reif were classified as the last 2 cars in the lead lap. Monty Tipton, he dropped out of the race with 5 laps to go due to crash damage. David Smith, he finished the race 18 laps down. 13th with Isan Nascimento. 14th or 15th was Takuma Koga. 16th was Robbie Keneally. They were all taken out in that big restart crash. Like I said, Tanner Reif did finish the race in 17th, 50 laps down. And then, of course, Dustin Ash and Brody Armtrout. The contingency awards from the race notes. The Bounty Rookie Challenge Award obviously goes to Caden Honeycutt because he's a rookie in this series. The Comedic Crew Chief Award goes to Sean Samuels in number 17. Obviously, the General Tire Pole Award goes to Eric Nascimento's team. The General Tire Winning Team Award goes to Caden Honeycutt's team. The K&N Filters Hard Charger Award goes to the 88 of Joey East. And the Richmond Halfway Leader Award also goes to Caden Honeycutt. So maximum contingency awards and purse money for the 17 team. That's for sure. That is for sure. So, yeah, guys, unfortunately, the point standings look as this. I would say the Drivers' Championship is pretty much locked up. Sean Hingorani has a 30-point lead over Trevor Huddleston and a 33-point lead over Tyler Reif. That I would say that's pretty much it. Even though Phoenix is scheduled to have between 30 and 35 cars, I don't expect anybody to challenge Hingorani at Phoenix. All he has to do is just pretty much, I would say, start the race, and he'll be the champion. The Owners' Championship, though, is a different story. We know the Owners' Championship is where the money really comes from in ARCA. I have been really saying that. We know Venturini loves those Owners' Championships, man. They barely missed the East one. They did win the main series Owners' Championship. But right now, man, they are really on the outside looking in there. 18 points behind the Steve McGowan 17 car in the Owners' Championship. And I tell you, 18 points at a track like Phoenix, when you know Caden Honeycutt's going to be really, really good in that race, that's going to be hard to manage. So though Venturini went full-time in all 3 divisions, he might not come out of it with the championships that he was hoping to. You know, I'm sure they were hoping to claim up both drivers and owners in all 3 divisions. That was the goal at the beginning of the year. Unfortunately, with Sean Hingorani's issues and being suspended for Iowa, he could not participate in the East race. So that ended that deal. And then this one, it looks like although they will claim the Drivers' Championship, they will not claim the Owners' Championship. Thad Moffat's running in the Trans Am series right now. He's not going to be in ARCA, and good. Thad's running in the TA2 division of Trans Am. But yeah, overall, this was a very, very fun race. Definitely, if you're a backmarkers guy like I am, you were definitely a little taken aback, and you're like, ugh, they're struggling so bad. So yeah, it's kind of tough to be a backmarker fan. They all got pretty much wiped out, and seeing the championship battle kind of go away sucked too. I'll admit that kind of sucked. So, but hey, that's racing, man. I just feel bad for Trevor Huddleston, man. They really still had a shot at the championship in the last couple of races of the year. They really didn't have a chance to take advantage of it, or with just bad luck. We'll see what Phoenix brings. Again, Phoenix is expected to have at least between 30 and 35 cars. We know the Phoenix race in the spring was wild. I mean, Tyler Reif ended up winning it for Loudon Jackson, so anything's possible. We do know that Venturini will have 4 cars there, all 4 cars. We know William Sawalich from the main division will be at Phoenix as well. I think Andy Hillenberg will have an entry there. So we'll have some main series guys there. Trust me. It'll be a big field like it usually is. But, yeah, I would say in terms of Drivers' Championship, don't get your hopes up. I think Sean Hingorani is your Drivers' Champion. Where does Sean Hingorani go next year? Well, he's not going to be 18 years old, so he can't run full-time main division racing. So I'm not really sure where Sean Hingorani is going to go next year. Does he run more main division races? Does he go for the West Championship again? I'm really curious to see what they do with Sean Hingorani. I know he's not the most well-liked driver in the garage. He's definitely not the most well-liked driver on social media. But I'm curious, where does he go from here? We know he's got the money. And obviously, he's through the Toyota pipeline right now. So I'm curious too, guys. I don't know where Sean Hingorani is going to go next year. Does he stay at Venturini? Again, who knows? Venturini did say at Toledo that they do plan on running 4 full-time cars next year with 2 full-time drivers. But we know that Sean Hingorani is not old enough to run all the races. So he would not be a part of those 2 full-time drivers. My guess is that he would probably run races in all 3 divisions like he did this year. It wouldn't shock me if they have him go for the East Series Championship, because that's a little bit of an easier championship for them to go to. There's only 4 regular races, and then you got the 4 main combo races if it stays that same next year. So I'm not sure if Venturini will have a West Series entry next year. If they're going 4 full-time cars in the main division, I don't expect Venturini to have a West Series entry next year, at least not a full-time one, because in my opinion, that'd be spreading themselves a little too thin. So, but we'll just have to see. We'll have to see what the 2024 season brings. We have 1 race to go, guys. Like I said, the Phoenix Review, that'll be next Tuesday's or Thursday's show, whichever day the entry list comes out. But we'll have to see how many cars that brings. That's going to be a fun one. We know Bobby Hillis, he'll be back for that one as well. We know, like I said, RJ Smotherman will be there. Eric Red from Las Vegas, he'll be there. So that'll be a fun race, guys. And that'll be on Flow Racing. Again, we'll go over more of that next week. We're just kind of talking about speculation right now. But Madera, I hope it returns. Man, Madera was a fun track. It was really cool seeing the West Series go to 2 unique tracks that they hadn't been to in years. Madera, which they hadn't been to in 14 years, and Shasta, where they hadn't been to in 7 years. And I hope we see more of that on the East Series schedule too. Like, let's send the ARCA East Series to Motor Mile Speedway, or God, what's that? South Boston. Let's send the East Series to South Boston. Why can't, or Jennerstown? But yeah, I like the idea of the West Series going to these different tracks. Let's keep that up for next year, man. I really, really like the fact, and I think it would have more intrigue to the series, especially in the East Division, going to different tracks than the main division that are actually fun and meaningful would probably draw, number one, bigger crowds, bigger field sizes, and overall interest in the 2 supporting divisions to the main series. So, yeah, like I said, it's kind of weird not previewing anything because that's what we're used to talking about next. But it's pretty much all I got for you guys tonight. Madera was fun. The championship, I would say, is all but locked up. ARCA should not do a street race. Do not even say that. I'm sorry. If there's one thing ARCA does not need to do, it's a street race. They tried that in 1994 here in Des Moines. It didn't work. It was cool for what it was, but it didn't take off. So, but anyway, guys, that's kind of it. That's kind of it for tonight's show. It was a fun race weekend in Madera. We're wrapping up this year. We only got 2 more ARCA podcasts left for this season, and then we'll talk about the 2024 schedules, which I'm excited to do next. So thanks for everyone who's been sticking by me this entire year. It's been a lot of fun. To all the new listeners, we're here every week for ARCA podcasts, man. So if you're an ARCA fan, man, leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel, and I'll hope to see you on the next one. So I'm going to get out of here. I'll see you guys on Thursday live at 7 p.m. With backmarker battles, NASCAR backmarker battles. This Thursday live at 7 p.m. Do not miss that. Lot to talk about, lots to preview with Homestead and Martinsville. So yeah, catch you all then. Have a great night, and I give you guys the goodbye salute, and I'll see you all next time. Colby Evans, starting Park Car, and I'm signing off. So long, guys.